recently we got called to play with Paul Simon on Jules' TV show. And I think it was a couple of years ago, he had a new album out called, I forget what the album was called, but the track was called Wristband.
Yes,
okay.
Right.
Now, normally when I get sent anything to play on Jules' show, the bass parts are never that challenging. Because it's a bass and voice duet. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. Everything else is just hand claps, you know. So when I started to listen to it, I thought, you know, I knew it was easily playable, but it was just surprising for me to have like a big bass feature. I never had that on television before. I've just always had, you know, regular bass lines in the background. So and I was excited because I love Paul Simon. In fact, when I was a kid, one of my brothers had this album called, I think it's called There Goes Rhyming Simon.
There Goes Rhyming Simon, sure, 1972.
Yeah, and I love that album. And me and my friend, my best friend from school, we used to sing along with the tracks to it. You know, love that album. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, wow, I never thought I was going to get to play with Paul. So we got to the BBC and it was double bass, of course. And then I went and stood at the back, which are where I normally get told to stand because of my height. Right. The producer always says, you always ruin the backdrop. You know, you're sticking up like the Statue of Liberty. You know, but she said, well, no, because it's a bass. You have to come to the front with Paul.
How daunting. You
know, so that for me was a new thing. But of course, as we know, I'm probably sort of taller than the average fellow. And Paul, smaller. Yeah, he's definitely a more diminutive guy. So it was like quite an exaggerated thing, but he was fine. And what was lovely is because we get to spend a lot of time with these artists chatting. And before we even played a note, we were just chatting. He was asking me about my double bass, where it was made. His father was a double bass player. Yeah, he was talking about his dad's own double bass. He was talking about touring. He was talking about David Bowie. You know, we had a blast. And I'm thinking, this is so cool. We haven't even played a note yet, and I'm just hanging out with this guy. But then, and sure enough, we did the rehearsal, and one thing I noticed was that he kept switching the bars out.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because it's kind of it's like a 2-bar.
It's like a scat song.
Yeah, exactly. But normally when you do these things with a guest, they stick with them.
Okay.
You know, and he wasn't. Every time we ran through it, he moved the bars around. And I realized that for me to play this successfully, I've got to go with him. I have to jump with him. And that's another thing. It's one thing about you learn it off the record, but you've got to be prepared for any eventuality, you know. So it was, sometimes he'd miss a bar out, he'd add a bar in, he'd do this. Right. So I kept having to adjust.
What did you cue in on? Because we've talked about this with Dylan.
Yeah.
And he says, well, one guy I know watched his foot. Rob Stoner watched Dylan's lips. What did you watch on Paul Simon?
Well, to be honest, then it was much more what he was singing because it was. Because
melody.
Yeah, it was the melody, you know, because it was kind of in the chorus bit. It was like a 2-bar thing, and sometimes he would extend it or shorten it. But I was listening to his voice. But it was, I think, one of our trumpet players. You know, it was difficult for them because they had to come in with certain energy. And of course, with the trumpet, there's no hiding with that once you commit to those high notes. Whereas with the bass, you can, you know. But every time we did it, every single time, and even when we did the recording of it, he changed it again, you know. But he was busking.
Okay.
That's what he was doing. He was having fun. But you know, he didn't say he was going to do that. He didn't tell me in advance. So that's why it was so important to have, you know, more often now in this stage of my life, more than my reading skills, having good ears and fast reactions is way more important than anything else. So but that was a real highlight for me.